Hi, my name is Luke DeBoard, and today we'll be taking a deep dive on how does the biology of emotion play a role in psychological well-being. Today I will be discussing 5 different subtopics that consist of what is psychological well-being, a brief overview on the biology of emotion, how we process our emotions biologically, what research is being done, and finally, mental health and resources. Jumping right in, I want to provide some context with what is psychological well-being. Psychological well-being can be defined as our overall makeup of our mental health. It can be described as how we live our day-to-day lives through our thoughts, feelings, emotions, environment, and how our overall lifestyle contributes and intertwines with our mental health. Factors such as family dynamics, education, current or past traumas, genetics, and mental illnesses are a few contributing factors that make up our psychological health, which I will dive deeper into in the mental health section of this video. How does the biology of emotion play a role in all of this? Well, the limbic system in the brain works together on how we perceive and feel our emotions. Both positive and negative emotions are beneficial in order for life situations, and positive emotions allow us to handle situations quickly, calmly, and effectively. Negative emotions may cause more harm than good, but there are ways we can improve and are important to experience mentally. Biological studies have been done in order to come up with strategies to better regulate emotion and explain the known consequences of our behavior, as well as compare emotional strategies. When it comes to emotion, the limbic system plays a vital role in allowing us to sense, process, understand, and feel our emotions. It's the pathway to survival when we deal with different situations life throws at us. The limbic system is made up of different parts that allows us to process different information. The 4 parts I will be discussing today are the thalamus, hypothalamus, hippocampus, and the amygdala. The first part of the limbic system I'll be covering today is the thalamus. The thalamus processes our information such as vision, hearing, touch, and taste, but not smell, and relays the senses to different parts of the brain. The thalamus also controls our consciousness, awareness, attention, and allows us to be alert throughout our environment. You may be asking, how does the thalamus relate to emotion? Well, an example of the thalamus in fear is you're walking down the sidewalk at night and you hear rustling in the leaves behind you. Based on your hearing, you nervously turn around and you see a man dressed in all black running towards you. Based on the environment information you received and based on your senses, you now become fearful. Since the thalamus is in charge of sending signals to your senses and makes you become aware of your environment, that's how it ties into emotion. The second part of the limbic system I'll be discussing is the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is in charge of releasing hormones, regulating body temperature, maintaining daily physiological cycles, controlling appetite, sleep behavior, managing sexual behavior, and regulating emotional responses. Some of the hormones the hypothalamus releases are CRH, which is involved in the body's response to physical and emotional stress. Oxytocin is also a hormone released that controls behavior, emotions, sexual arousal, and trust behavior. An example of the hypothalamus related to psychological well-being is signaling to your body when you're hungry. To solve this, you eat to rid the feeling. Tiredness is also another example. The hypothalamus sends a signal when you're tired, and you sleep to rid that feeling. The third part of the limbic system I'll be discussing is the hippocampus. The hippocampus is involved with memory, learning, and emotion. This part is mainly in charge to hold short-term memories and transfer them into long-term memory. The hippocampus focuses on episodic memory, which are memories related to a personal experience. An example of the hippocampus in emotional well-being is walking down the same sidewalk at night the next day after you previously encountered the man dressed in all black running towards you. Although there is nobody there, you remember the incident and you become fearful based on your environment. The final part of the limbic system I'll be discussing is the amygdala. The amygdala involves assigning positive and negative stimuli to different situations. The amygdala mainly controls our reactions to certain situations. Neural activity increases, which triggers our fight or flight response and can lead to different reactions. An example of the amygdala is in fear, running away and screaming after seeing the scary man run towards you on the sidewalk. Running and screaming is a part of our reaction, which is triggered by the amygdala, which is how this is tied into our emotional well-being. Now that you've learned about how the limbic system works in processing and emotional well-being, let's talk about different emotions. Happiness, joy, love, and excitement can all be identified as positive feelings, while emotions such as sadness, anger, and embarrassment may be seen as negative emotions. Let's discuss some of the pros and cons for experiencing some of these emotions and how this all ties into our overall emotional well-being. First emotion I'll be discussing today is happiness. Happiness is a key to our survival and improves on how we interact with others. Oftentimes, we are proud of our human accomplishments, and that boosts our confidence for us to keep going. It also allows us to build connections with others and share stories with what we've been through throughout our lifetime. The feeling of love allows us to build a sense of fulfillment, trust with a partner, grow together, and create a family. One downfall is the feeling of love creates irrational feeling, not being able to make clear decisions, possible pain or hurt, and we may end up in a negative relationship. Next emotion I'll be discussing is sadness. When we think of sadness, we often think of grief, pain, crying, and despair. But there's actually a more positive outlook we can look on this emotion. One way is by the two-stage theory of tears. This is when a situation occurs such as pain, loss, stress, or grief, and you begin to cry and have a breakdown. The second portion of this theory is calming down, composing yourself, and trying to find the best outcome of the situation in order to make more room for positive emotions. Crying is a way of cleansing the mind, allowing yourself to mentally grieve those emotions and make room for more positive and uplifting feelings. The next emotion I'll be discussing is anger. More than not, anger results in destructive behavior between yourself and others. It is used as a coping mechanism to gain others' willingness to understand and comply. The two stages of anger are fighting over a certain situation to get others to change their behavior by making harmful threats and actions. It is important to feel this emotion, but ways that don't involve others, such as punching a pillow, screaming in an empty field, or talking to others about your emotions, which are all great coping mechanisms. The final emotion I'll be discussing today is embarrassment. Embarrassment can be described as a feeling of shame or discomfort when we are placed in an awkward situation, especially around others. An example of this would be wearing your shirt inside out at school on accident. It's so easy to shut down and block out these experiences, but overall, studies have shown that experiencing those embarrassing moments have allowed us to learn from our mistakes and grow as a person in order to shape different aspects of our life and how we communicate and interact with others. Now that you've learned how some of the positive and negative outcomes of emotions affect our psychological well-being, let's talk about what research has been done in relation to the biology of emotion. Using imagery techniques such as MRI and PET scans, these are used to study patients with brain lesions as well as normal subjects. Based on these, we have begun to understand the areas of the brain involved in different types of emotion. For example, when we generate states of fear, anger, disgust, or happiness, we produce withdrawal behaviors or approach behaviors that have been preserved through evolution because they have been proven to play a vital role in our survival. We have inherited this system for sorting out what is good and what is bad automatically in order to preserve ourselves. Another way of research is through EEGs, which is another type of brain scan to record electrical activity and monitors changes in the brain. This can lead to mental disorder in their diagnosis. Continuing with research, researchers have also done biological studies by creating a medicine known as safe opioids, which has helped individuals who struggle with depression and anxiety. The medicine reduces psychological pain that can lead to depression and suicide ideation. Finally, researchers show that when we are babies and are breastfed, the chemicals in breast milk, which are oxytocin and prolactin, provide us with attachment bonds, reduce separation, distress, and our social bonding chemistries. All of these examples contribute to our overall psychological well-being through brain scans being able to show mental health diagnosis, show how emotions play a role in our survival, build a healthier life by decreasing the effects of mental health disorders, and build connections with others. Moving on, let's talk about mental health and what exactly it is, what type of disorders are out there, how it affects an individual on a psychological well-being, as well as some treatment and resources for others who need help. Mental health is a state of mental well-being that enables people to cope with stresses of life, realize their abilities, learn well and work well, and contribute to their community. It is a vital component of health and well-being that allows us as individuals to make decisions, build relationships, and shape the world we live in. Individual, psychological, and biological factors such as emotional skills, substance abuse, genetics, abuse, past traumas, and family dynamics could all be contributors to mental health. Promotion and prevention interventions work by identifying the individual social and structural determinations of mental health and then intervening to reduce risk, build resilience, and establish supportive environments. One of the mental disorders I'll be discussing today is depression. Depression is a mental health disorder that lowers a person's mood, causes decreased motivation, and their overall outlook on life. It is important to treat depression as early as possible. Depression is caused by genetics, a traumatic event, personal issues, and having changes in the brain as we mature. Not having enough neurotransmitters in the brain can be a biological cause of depression, which is also known as low serotonin. SSRIs, or is known as antidepressants, are often taken to treat the chemical imbalance. Depression can cause an individual many hurdles in this long journey that we call life based on their education, social, family dynamics, and many other aspects of life. It is extremely important to get treatment for depression as it can cause a huge damper on our own psychological well-being. The final mental disorder I will be talking about that affects our psychological well-being is anxiety. Anxiety is a mental health disorder that causes fear, uneasiness, or nervousness throughout a person's life. Similar to depression, anxiety can be caused by genetics, trauma, abuse, life experiences, and stressors. Neurologically, heightened activity in the limbic system, which is the thalamus, hypothalamus, hippocampus, and amygdala, is a neurological cause of anxiety. Similar to depression, medication such as SSRIs, Prozac, and Celexa are some medications that help with anxiety. Now that you've learned what mental health is, how it affects individuals on a psychological well-being standpoint, different kinds of disorders, and the biology of mental health, let's discuss how we can treat different kinds of mental health disorders. There are many different types of treatment for mental health on different levels. Starting with the healthcare system, there's general health care through hospitals, therapy, family therapy, and group therapy. Community mental health services may involve community mental health centers and teams, psychosocial rehab, peer support services, and supported living services. Mental health care services are also provided in social services in non-health settings such as the child protection, school, education system, health services, and prisons. Different medication can also be provided based on your specific needs through a psychiatrist. Some quick and easy ways to get help for mental health is by contacting your doctor if you are struggling, and they will be able to guide you on a treatment plan. Mental Health America is also a good source for finding therapists, and Psychology Today is also a great source. You can also check with your school counseling and find more cost-effective options for your mental health, and the suicide hotline is 988. As someone who has struggled with their own mental health, I totally understand how scary it can be to seek treatment. Just like brushing your teeth every day, you want to brush your brain, and by doing that is getting the proper help that you need. I feel like everybody needs therapy these days, and it's important to know it's okay to not be okay, and people are there for you. Let's recap all of the information that you learned in this video. Today, I defined what is psychological well-being. I gave a brief overview on the biology of emotion, and I talked about how we process our emotions through the limbic system and how each of those aspects work within the brain. I also defined different ways to look at our emotions through a positive manner, and I defined different brain scans in medicine used in researching our emotions. Finally, I covered our mental health and disorders and different treatment plans for it. Each of these different aspects are the puzzle pieces that build the big picture on how our psychological well-being is made and how biology plays a role. Here is my works cited page, and the links to all the websites and my sources will be in the description below of the video.